Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to take a look at how to create an RSS feed for a web app via the Argotic framework that will generate RSS feeds. RSS stands for really simple syndication. It is an XML document format that allows for the syndication or sharing of web contents and allows it to be republished or downloaded via things like readers. RSS allows you to keep tabs on a website without actually having to visit the website. So let's go ahead and get started. Up on the page right here, I have the end result of what I want to create. This is the dimecast.net RSS feed. And you'll see that it has things like a title, some content, and then even embedded HTML into it. Let's go ahead and get started and get rolling. The first thing we need to do is I've already stubbed out the shell methods I want to use. And I've already even created a very simple test that will allow me to run this code. And one thing I'm not going to be going over today is actually generating the data for this. That's taken care of by my data layer, and it's very simplistic code that's just going to retrieve 4 or 5 pieces of data about each episode in the site. So in order to get started, the first thing I'm going to need to do is actually create an instance of my repository. I'm going to do this via version controller dependency injection. And my repository is the RSS repository. And next I'm going to want to go ahead and create an instance or get the data out of my repository. So I'm going to go ahead and call this method called generate RSS items. That will return me a list of various items that will actually become the meat of my RSS document. Now to get started using the Argotic framework, you need to import the argotic.syndication namespace. And the first thing you need to do is you need to create yourself an RSS feed. They've got this nice object model built in, so they have all the different things taken care of, and the first thing I need to do is create RSS feed object, and I'm going to give it a description. Here's where, of course, you'd want to give it a real description with some meaning, but this is for demo's sake. Now the RSS feed here will translate to this here. What we need to do next is actually tell the RSS feed who we are, and in RSS you do that by creating a channel. And of course they have an object model for that. And they have 2 overloads. The first overload, I'm going to use the second overload, the one that actually takes values, and I'm going to create a new URI. Now what I want to do here is put the URL for my site. And this is a valid URL, www.dimecast.net, but it is not a valid URI. To become a valid URI, I need to give it http:/. And trust me, if you don't put that in, you'll find out because it will throw an exception. And then I'm going to give it some description or some title. And then some description. So I've now created my channel. Now what we actually need to do is actually create the items that will be the meat of the RSS feed, or the purpose behind the RSS feed. So to do that, I'm going to very simply just iterate through all the items in that collection I returned back from my data layer. And I'm going to create an object called RSS item. And of course they have an object model for that. And I'm going to use a few properties. The first one I'm going to use inside this is the author. And that way the world knows who did what. Now of course you want to give it a title. Now I am returning title back from my data layer. The title will correlate to this right here. I want to give it a link, basically how to get to the actual item that is the meat of the RSS item. And this takes a URI. Now again, I can't just do an unqualified path. And because I know that in my data layer I do not return a fully qualified path, I'm actually going to go ahead and do string.format and actually create a full path. So that will create a link. That will essentially add a link to this right here, so it's clickable. The next thing I want to do is give it a description. The description is this text here. Oops. This text here would be the description. And then finally, the most important part, if you ask me, is the publication date. That tells the RSS feed when the item was actually published to the web. And once we've actually created our RSS item, we need to add it to our channel. via doing our add item. And there you go. Now I will iterate through and actually create every item and pop it into my channel. And then last but not least, I need to tell my RSS feed what the channel is. And now at this point I do have a fully complete object model that's completely valid and will generate a valid XML document. Now because I want to return this as an XDoc, XDoc is a XML document object that is out of the Xlink namespace. If you're not using Xlink, you could obviously use XML document here. I need to do a little bit of magic here. So XDoc will actually take a few different things, data types, to turn into an XML document. So I'm going to do parse RSS feed, and I want to actually create a navigator because this will create a old school XML navigator, and I want the outer XML. This will give me all the valid XML. There are multiple ways you could do this. I could stream this into the X document, do multiple different things, but I found this to be the easiest way. I now have a full set of code that will create me a simple yet effective RSS document. So let's go ahead and put a breakpoint right here. Let's go over to our unit test and run this and see if we get a valid feed out of it. If I hit F5, I should get to the very last line of code here. And sure enough, I do. Let's return out of here. And let's see if our feed object has some data in it. It's out of context, out of scope. Let's put that back up. Let's just cheat and rerun this. So you'll notice when I run this, it does generate an XML document for me. Let me scroll the top up here. It will create the RSS tag for me. It will create my channel for me, and each and every one of my items that need to be generated. And now, once we've actually generated the XML document for our RSS feed, what do? Well, we need to tell the world how to find us. The simplest way to do that, I found, is to create a ASPX page that has nothing on it. And then the code behind, what I've actually done in my page load, is I changed the content type. So I want this to be an XML content. And I'm actually going to create a stream because I want to take my XML document and put it in the response output stream right here. And I'm just going to say streamReader.write, and I'm going to call in and generate the XML document and write it to my stream. I'll then flush it and click end. And now I've just retyped the ASPX page to actually be an XML document versus a HTML document. And again, here's the final result. Now that we have our XML document and our ASPX that renders our RSS document, the last thing we need to do is actually tell the world how to find our feed. And to do that, the easiest way I found to do it, was just add that to my site master because I want it to be on every page. Or you don't have to on the site master, you can do it on the home page if you want, or whatever page you want. But you do it by this line of code right here. You create a link, you tell it the type of RSS XML, you give it a title, and then you give it the URL to your page. This URL will correlate to whatever URL that gets to this feeds page. And now when you come to the website, if you're using a newer browser, you should get this little icon right here. That tells me that I have an RSS feed. Basically the browser's interrogated the HTML and found that out. And all your RSS readers can do the exact same thing. So it's pretty powerful and pretty slick. Well, there you go. What we've gone over today is we've figured out how to generate an RSS feed. We've looked at how to use the Argotic framework to generate a very simplistic RSS feed. This does not go into detail on how to create like a syntax for the iTunes feed, for example, or the other variations or extensions to the feeds. We'll go into that in a future episode. And then we finally ended up by looking at how to tell the world where our feed is by giving it the link attribute in an HTML document. So I hope you learned something today. Until next time.